everyone. And while we're waiting for Patty, I'll just share a little disclaimer to keep everyone very safe today. But this conversation between Patty and myself is intended for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to provide any psychological or medical advice. So just wanted to share that. And hopefully Patty will be with us shortly. Perfect. There we go.
Oh boy, me and technology, we are not
No.
friends.
Oh gosh, Patty, that happened. It's not a thing. We're just so glad that you're here, and it gave me an opportunity to do our disclaimer as well.
Very good.
So
Good.
how
Very good.
are you?
I am doing well, thanks. How about you?
Doing well. I'm very much looking forward to joining you at the end of the month. I'm going to be going to Best Friends. It'll be my very first time. And I, of course, will bring you all with me, and just very much looking forward to that.
I am so excited to have you here. I don't know if our folks here on the call know, but you and I had, we did a presentation together for the first time we met.
In Houston last month.
Houston. And I don't know if y'all know this, but Katie is tall.
Oh. Well, the context for this is I was flying into Houston from London, and my bags didn't make it because there were delays from London. And Patty was so kind. I texted her that I didn't have any professional clothes to come down in. And Patty said, gosh, you can borrow mine, but I don't have anything petite. And I'm almost 5'9". So it just was very, very sweet to see your compassion in that moment.
When I looked at her for her in the lobby, I was like, oh my goodness, you're so tall. We're going to begin in just a second, but I just wanted to share this little bit with you all because, when we all sit down and talk to each other over Zoom and Instagram, you really don't have any idea. And she's just as beautiful in person.
Okay, thank you, Patty, and ditto. But no, I think that speaks to how warm we want to make the conversation today.
Absolutely.
And we want to include you all because you're our community. This is kindred spirits here. And obviously, we've entered into fall. It's getting darker sooner. Schedules are more structured. In fall, there's more places we're expected to be, more places we have to show up and have that pressure to be on. I don't know about you, Patty, but you might have started receiving holiday invitations.
Oh, yes.
Tradition.
Well, it's that, and it's also, goodness. We talked about this, and I wanted to share this with everyone to know if you feel the same. It's, the summertime, you get all that extra daylight and you can be busy and you can be outside and doing all kinds of things with your animals and getting sweaty and whatever. And now that the time is starting to shrink in the evenings, I do find myself a little bit, I don't know what the word is, like taken aback, like, oh, I thought I had more time in the evening. And now all of a sudden there's this like chasm of time where I'm like, it's dark. And then I began to brood a little bit.
Well, that's exactly it. And, I do want to mention seasonal affective disorder is a very real thing. And seasonal affective disorder, and the acronym for this is so perfect. It's SAD. It's a type of depression, and it happens during certain times of the year. And usually it's that in fall for all the reasons you were just talking about. And it's thought that we don't really know the underlying cause, but our best guess is that the shorter days and less daylight trigger chemical reactions in our brain that lead to symptoms of depression. And the other thing is that melatonin, which is a sleep related hormone, some of us may take it at night to help us sleep, has also been linked to seasonal affective disorder. And the body naturally makes melatonin when it gets dark. So when the days are shorter and darker, we make more melatonin. But you're absolutely right. There's that kind of void. There's a lot of hours of darkness.
Well, and I
now.
think if you've recently lost one of your fur kids, and you're used to doing stuff in the afternoon, now, and it really doesn't matter, right? It's like the afternoon, the weekend, the mornings, whatever your routine is, it gets a bit of a jolt. And now you have to figure out, how do I rejigger that time, and how do I help myself, with that coping strategy that we talk about.
Absolutely. It's a change. And when we're in the thick of grief, any type of change, we've already had the biggest change affect us. And now this is another change that adds a whole another layer on top. And I'm just, you and I talk about this all the time. I'm so glad we're having conversations like these because, 70% of homes in the US include an animal.
Isn't that
and that
amazing?
That number is growing, and 90% of us pet guardians, view our animals as family. And when they pass, 85 to 90% of us reported that it's just as impactful, if not more, than losing a human family member. And then a third of us, so that's a huge number, 33%, still are experiencing acute grief at 6 months out. So it's so important that we're talking about this today.
Well, what I love about this too is the collection of data. The data, I think, helps us all not feel so alone. When you realize that when you look at that many people, this is a thing. It's a very real thing. And for people in our lives who sometimes don't understand that loss, wow, what an amazing opportunity to connect in an entirely different way.
I think you just named it exactly. I think that those of us who are able to connect, and Bear's joining us.
Hey, Bear.
I think that we tend to be very empathic. I think we're highly intuitive. I think we're the nurturers in relationships, and we're sensitive in the best possible way. And I think we really value the peace and the comfort that animals bring. And this is not everyone's personality, especially in our society today. I was just watching the news. It's definitely not in this country right now. And I think the lack of insight to the importance of our relationship with animals is so surprising to me because, like you said, the data, the research is there. We as humans are biologically, since the beginning of time, designed to feel such a deep connection with animals because they've been critical to our survival for billions of years. So
let me ask you, Dr. Katie,
Patty.
I know, it rolls right off my tongue because you are. And let me ask you, Katie, I grapple with this a lot. When people are having, say, struggles with their own empathy, is it a fear of feeling, or has that not yet just been turned on for them?
That's, wow, Patty, that is a really deep question. With just thinking off the cuff, I would venture to guess that it's both. Without delving into a lot of childhood stuff, those of us who connected with animals really early tended to be shy and introverted and just really felt like we could show up genuinely and authentically. I mean, that's why I grew up loving animals. I've told you this. My dad was from Ireland, and we spent every summer there. And I am the middle child of two very beautiful, outgoing sisters, and am very awkward socially, and just always it's true, it's true. Just always felt like I wanted to be out in the barn with the horses and the cows.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to pretend to be someone that I wasn't. And I think that for those people who haven't felt the love and the connection that an animal can bring, that relationship, I feel for them, because genuinely there's such a void in their life.
Well, and I just saw someone comment just a few minutes ago on, I'm more empathic to animals than I am to humans. And I think that has been one of my greatest ahas and greatest struggles, because I always feel like, well, people know better and they can express themselves and they have a voice. And then you start to realize, wow, I'm starting now to see I need to be more empathetic to the people. And it is a struggle because people make it hard.
Oh, yes.
And then I have to remind myself, well, I'm a people too. I've got to stop pointing out, like, and see how people are. I'm a people. And that has been a real struggle for me, because you automatically think people know better.
Well, that's it. And I think some of us are so drawn to animals because they are so vulnerable, and it's on us. I always say that it's on us humans, as people, to use your word. We haven't figured out yet how to communicate with animals. There's a great quote, I believe it's Einstein, that says every animal is brilliant in its own way, but if we can constantly measure a fish's ability to climb a tree, that fish is going to be stupid to us.
Oh my God, that's brilliant. That's it.
Yeah, that's the quote. And I think that when we realize just how brilliant and empathetic and amazing that these little buddies are, we get it. Something clicks.
I always call it speaking different languages, right?
Totally.
Like, as I add to my repertoire, I can speak horse, dog, cat, guinea pig, a little bit of fish, some bee. When you start delving into the lives of all these different species, and some things are harder for me emotionally to delve into. I yell at my friend all the time who's working with chimps, and I'm like, I can't open my brain or my mind to the plight of another species right now, because it hits me so viscerally. And then I had someone tell me, they're the ones going through it. You have to be brave enough to be there for them. And I'm thinking, oh, please just let me do one species at a time.
No, but Patty, that is such profound insight, because we do have to show up for ourselves. But I mean, I've been watching so closely, and we do have questions. This always happens when you and I get together. We start.
I'm sorry, guys.
No, Patty, gosh, no, this is so important. And I think, listen, the cornerstone of these lives, the reason we started them, is for honest, genuine, authentic conversation. There's no coding here. This is tough stuff. But I've been following recently, the captive whales.
I was just going to bring that up.
And that trickles down, to in our pet store. And that's I want to keep this safe and on topic, but oh my gosh, I mean, there's nights when I cannot sleep thinking of those whales or those fish or any species that is held against their will, especially if it's for our purposes. I'm getting a little emotional, so we'll
No, but then when you dig into it, I'm thinking the same thing. Like their families won't leave them and they're outside just going up and down waiting. And there are animals that have chosen to just stop eating
no,
out
it's
of desperation.
we need to be, I think, and this is such a movement right now too, and I think it comes back to bring this full circle. We are only on the cusp of realizing how brilliant and highly sensitive in the best possible way animals are, and hopefully science will be able to continue helping with this. Absolutely. Well, should we get to some of the questions that we...
Yeah, that would be fantastic. And thank you for sending those to me. They're so
Of course.
just wonderful questions. You jump wherever you're ready.
Okay, so the first question we received was, how do you deal with people in your life that don't understand how deep the loss of your animal is? And so I think I'll go ahead and start with this one, but I think when our animals pass, our natural tendency is to seek comfort from those closest to us. And of course, wouldn't it be ideal if they were able to provide us with the support that we need? But sometimes this is not the case. And so if our grief is met with invalidation or apathy from the humans we love, we're probably going to experience a lot of loneliness and a lot of shame, in addition to several other feelings that are really going to hurt. And so I think this is where we need to be very mindful about knowing which loved ones we can count on, and we need to surround ourselves with those who are supportive.
This is the don't go to the hardware store for grapefruit model.
No, it's
Yeah.
true. It's so true. I have a very close girlfriend from high school. I'm godmother to her son, but she is not an animal person, and she's let me know that in very different ways. And so if I go to this girlfriend, I know I'm not going to get the care and the love that I need at that time. But since this is very real and honest talk, I think we need to be very selective about who we're vulnerable with. And I think this is exactly where conversations like this can be so helpful, as it validates that this is an extraordinarily devastating loss.
Yeah. There's another area that I get hit with because we have a multi species home, and we have several in each species, like most people on this call. When you lose one of your guys, um, I've had people assume that we're okay with it because we have so many.
Oh.
But somehow we don't have the depth of a relationship that a person has with one cat, or if they have one dog for 12 years. And when we get into those comparisons, or even thinking, that loss is felt any less, that is so devastating to me, in the fact that I feel not only shame but invalidated, like I cared less about this one cat because we have 5.
No, and comparison, who said that? Comparison is the thief of joy.
Absolutely.
We need to understand that maybe cognitively we know that each loss is different. We know that that's a different animal, but the body, the soul, the heart, whatever you deem to call it, whatever resonates with you, that grief builds. It is like layers, and when it gets to here, it will come out. And what we're doing right now, talking about it, we know that it is the healthiest way to cope with grief, is talking about it. But absolutely, those losses build. There are children.
I mean, is it different? It is a little bit different because you have to get yourself up and feed everybody else. You have to get yourself, you still have to tend to that greater flock, but that feeling is no less intensified.
Well, love is the only thing that we give away that we get back more of. It's true. The more love that we give out to these animals, the more it comes back to us. It's the only thing in the world that we have figured out.
Oh my
Multiplies.
gosh, I just saw someone comment, oh, just get another one. Like if you could just replace them. And it's, I don't understand. I don't think sometimes, and this is, my new model of compassion. I don't think sometimes people are thinking about what they're saying. I'm trying to give them the benefit of doubt there.
No, I think the benefit of doubt, and that's something I really work on as well. I think what happens is they're trying to comfort us, but they don't understand the magnitude. I think that they're trying to make us feel better in that moment. And a gentle reminder to validate this, our society is not comfortable with grief. We don't have a lot of traditions, especially around animals, like other countries and cultures do. So I think probably, Patty, what's going on is that's their own projection of how uncomfortable they are in that moment. For whatever reason, they're not able to sit with the loss. And so there I see the hearts going up, because I know this must resonate for some. Most of what comes back to us has really nothing to do with us from a psychological perspective.
You just hit the nail on the head, because one of my dearest friends, she goes, well, you're my bleeding heart girlfriend. And I said, I'm the brave one, my boo.
Yep.
And you'll figure this one out soon enough, and I'll be there for you.
I think it's what brings meaning and fulfillment to your life. I professor in grad school, Dr. Steve Smith, who is amazing, and he taught the hardest class. I really did think I was going to fail it. It was like psychoanalytic depths of psychology, and I studied for the final. I was nervous that day. He proceeds to pass out the exams, and this was the final, for the whole class. What makes you get out of bed in the morning? I thought I was gonna cry, because that was his final. And it's so true. And I think that for those of us on this call, our animals get us out of bed in the morning. And so when they pass, we have to find a way to keep getting out of bed. We
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's huge right there. Like if it wasn't for my horses, I would definitely sleep the morning away. Like I have to, at least I know I have to drag myself up and out. So having the other animals motivates us, even though we might be bleary-eyed.
Well,
we have to get going. But here's the question I have, just to backtrack a little bit, because here we are, September. How the heck did that happen? But here we are.
I know.
And we say this every year, but it just seems like time compression. Things just roll really fast. And starting to get those, when are you doing this for Christmas? What days are you taking? And are we going to get together with the family? Well, there's times when you suffer, people will suffer significant loss in the holidays. And there is an expectation of the people around you to join them in celebrations, to be there and to be on. And what is one of our other human qualities is we hate to disappoint. We don't want to say no. We sometimes suffer from a little FOMO. But when you're going through this, how do you say no without offending? And how do you also protect yourself? Because your self-protection and boundaries are so important.
No, I think this is crucial that we talk about this. And this might come as a shock to you, Patty, but animal lovers tend to be people pleasers. We don't ever want to
Guilty.
No, exactly. We don't ever want to disappoint. We put others first. And so what I would say is that as these, I would even venture to say maybe there are obligations for you. Well,
Mm-hmm.
obligations, but if you want to call them obligations, that's so valid as well. It's completely fine to say, gosh, I received the invite. Thank you so much for thinking of me. I'm honored to be included. And, power of and, I'm not quite sure if I'm up for it. Would it be okay to make a day of decision?
Oh, I haven't heard that one
Because
before.
then
Can I make a day of decisions?
you acknowledge that you appreciate the invitation. You're putting your host first. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
you decide to go, this is my other tip. Always have kind of an out plan, either drive yourself or if it's walkable, go. But if you want to leave, if you get there and it's just too much, maybe ask a friend in advance or a family member in advance if they'll leave with you. I'm a huge fan of the Irish goodbye. I don't need to let anyone know if you decide to kind of sneak out. But I would do that. Let's say this and let's give everyone a permission slip right now to put yourself first this fall and in these upcoming holidays. Grief, if you put a mask and a smiley face on, it's going to exacerbate the emptiness and the loneliness you feel on the inside. And we don't need to keep doing that. We can stop.
And I tend to get a little resentful too.
That's totally, absolutely.
One of my humanness qualities. Like if I have to put on, then eventually I'm peeved at you because here I am, put my smile, but I want to just smash the glasses, I know that sounds violent, but I mean,
no,
I'm being real.
We need to be real and we need to be honest. And for anyone who's in maybe the opposite position right now, where you have a loved one who's experienced a loss, some of my favorite things to say are, do you want to talk about it? My favorite thing about your animal was, you could even say something, I don't know the right thing to say right now, but please know you're in my thoughts and heart. You were an amazing pet parent, and I'm here if you'd like me to be. Because some of us, when I'm in grief, I do isolate, at least for a little while. Mm-hmm. And I want, if I get texts, my ideal text would say something like, Katie, you're in my heart. No need to text me back. Please know I'm here. Because I think sometimes, again, our loved ones, they want to cheer us up, and that's not how it works psychologically. We don't have the power to cheer other people up. We can be there and we can listen, but mood and feelings come from the inside. We've got to remind ourselves of that.
Yeah, one of the ones I practice a lot now that I didn't before was trying to fix people. And I realized that I was not honoring their need to really just go through from the very beginning. I've told you this for the last couple of lives. My bestie lost her horse, and every now and then, and she took fabulous care of this horse for 30 years, and she has to, every now and then it cycles around that she has to bleed the line a bit. Mm-hmm. And I noticed, I told her I was practicing on her. We've been friends for 57 years, so she knows me like my sister. And what's interesting is it's helping me realize, how can I be a good listener and not try to take away her pain? She needs to walk through every last minute of this horse's life, and she gets better with each rotation as far as her own acceptance. But it's not because I sat there going, oh, but you didn't mean that, or you didn't do this, or I really just practice listening. And I find if we give other people that permission to say, I need to just talk about this. I don't need you to fix it. I don't need you to make me feel better. I need you right now to just like hold my hand while I let it all out.
Well, I'm yes, I'm very moved by that, Patty. And there's a lot of theories about grief. Well, caveat, human grief. But the one that really resonates with me, and I think you just really touched on, it's William Worden's, and I'm not going to get academic or textbooky here, but I do want to say the name, William Worden's 4 Tasks of Mourning. And he really found that we need to go through 4 things we don't ever move on, but we move through the grief. And the first is to accept the reality of the loss. And honestly, that takes time. I call the first few weeks and months the surreal time. For many of us, that it's going to be incomprehensible, like literally incomprehensible. Our brain cannot handle it, that they aren't here with us. And that's the time to surround yourself with the things and the people, or lack of people, that bring you comfort. But the next 3 are so important. So the second one is to work through the pain of the grief. Just like you said, there is no way around this. You have to go through the dark forest. And talking about it is the healthiest way, followed closely by exercise, which you won't see me doing, but but no, talking about it.
Yeah.
It's the most important. And then the third is to adjust to your environment with your pet not there. And so what does that look like for you? That's that question. What makes you get out of bed in the morning? Where's the meaning? Where's the fulfillment? And then the fourth is to find the enduring connection to your animal while you continue on with your life. And that's what the theme of today was, memorializing our pets. And I don't know if you had a chance to see, but I posted the wind chimes that best friend sent me after a pretty significant.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to look. I was just talking about how I need to be on Instagram more. It's me and my people, we of my age, we killed and are now reviving Facebook. But I need to be on Instagram more. But this Warden's task of mourning, this is really helpful. I saw someone post, I wanted to die. And I know that feeling. I absolutely know that feeling of, I just want to die. And there's something that I've incorporated into my language. And as I'm looking at this tasks of mourning, this is so helpful, because what we have to remind ourselves, I use this now all the time, for now.
For now.
This is how I feel for now. This is how crappy everything is for now. Because when we recognize that we're all going to eventually say goodbye to this mortal plane, we know that where we're at right now is for now, and that someday we're going to be someone's for now. And it's all, not that it ever goes away, not that we can even put a temporary tag on it, but we can put a for now tag on it.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think this is where we start to look, if we were to say, because I hear that too, I get that post on my Instagram at least a couple times a day, like, I just wanted to pass as well. And I think it's because we want to go with them. We want to continue to take care of them. We want to protect them. And, I never want to impose my spiritual beliefs on anyone, but I think it's that someone put it in the comments earlier, grief is all the love we want to keep giving, but they're not here. And so I think that may be where some of the urge is coming from, to go wherever it is that they are, to make sure that they're safe and protected and that they feel loved.
Well, and we want the pain to stop.
Of course.
You
No,
know, we've just lost a big part of ourselves. And for most of us, all of us, I think, these animals bring out something good in us that maybe we didn't even know existed until they came along,
it's like
right?
we like ourselves better when we're in that company. And so when we lose them, we lose the best piece of ourselves.
They
No.
were like, you got me.
Well, I mean, that's it. I am a better person, hands down, because I was Jem's mom. And if
Right?
if it's at all comforting, I like to remind people that they change our DNA. I mean, truly, they are with us, even though they're not physically here with us anymore. They are with, like, Jem changed my heart. He is there now. I forgot. I have my little Jem necklace on. That's it's a sign.
Well,
I put this on.
what was it about you? What happened?
I, I was more patient. I think
Mhm.
for the first time, it made me reflect. Rabbits are very quiet creatures, although Nicholas did chew my computer cord last night. So I saved battery and have to order a new one today. But, rabbits are so quiet. They are so gentle. When I first saw Jem, I thought he was the most beautiful creature. Like that he existed in reality with his little pink ears and blue eyes. He was a Netherland dwarf. He gave me more love, and he never said a word to me. And I think that made me reflect that, like, it's in our actions how we love and care for our animals. We do so much for them, and yet we never exchange a single word. And doesn't that tell you so much about our relationships with humans?
Oh, well, I mean, good. Just going back to what is it? 96% of our communication is body language, you know,
Totally.
and so when I have a saying I use all the time, which is, if somebody's really not hitting me right, so, just on my spidey sense,
Mm-hmm.
like the video and audio aren't matching up,
Oh,
right?
I've never heard that. I love that.
It's my thing, and it's with horses, especially, oh man, or dogs, cats, everybody. We were talking about the video and audio aren't matching up. A horse will literally just walk away from you, like, nope, not talking to you because something's up and it's not matching up. Yeah.
I've always been so fascinated by equine facilitated therapy, and because I wish I was a horse person. I think you know this, Patty. I had a pretty bad scare when I was like 7. I was on one of those little horse tracks for anyone that's here in California, in Tilden Park in Berkeley, and my horse jumped the railing and took off. I held on, but I think
That's
out of that,
terrifying.
it was terrifying. I love horses though so much, but because of that, I just deeply respect them. And I know that people that work with them, like you do, who are so close to horses, say how much they communicate. You can read horses and they're very open. And how amazing is that if we could be more open like our animals?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, don't get me started on horses, but they bring you right into the present moment. And if you're not, you could be in danger, first of all, because there's nothing like a, you know 11, 1,200 pound scared animal, um who's literally always scanning. I mean, they embody Maslow's, hierarchy of need in a very big way. And being safe is super important. And maybe that is it,
That,
Katie.
that's it.
Safety.
It's
There,
in
there's a safety in our love with all of our animals.
I think, Patty, that brings this conversation full circle, and we still have a few more questions, but it's safety. When we can show up and know that we're safe, how much, I mean, in any aspect of our life, how much more comfortable you get to show up as you, as the real you.
Yeah.
And so one of the, speaking of safety and feeling safe and in maintaining that connection, one of the questions we got were received was, you can tell I'm feeling safe. I'm speaking very openly. What are some of the ways we can memorialize our beloved pets? And so I brought up, now, as best friends, they're pretty famous for those wind chimes, right? There's a place. Okay, can you share for those of us who haven't been about the wind chimes and
Oh,
best friends?
absolutely. So our Angel's Rest is the cemetery at Best Friends for the animals who have gone on before us. Some of them are animals that have lived at the sanctuary. If you don't know, Best Friends, we give a lifetime safety net for all animals that come through our organization. And if for whatever reason, the home doesn't work out, they can return to us. But also for the animals who just hadn't found that right home, they're with us for life, and we give them all the enrichment and love and care that we, can throughout their lifetime. And if they, pass away in our care, they come to Angel's Rest. We also have folks who bury their animals there and our employees. So I wanted to set that up and preface it because it's a tremendous cemetery. It's huge. And you'll see that when you come. And there's beautiful markers and little grave sites, and it's all very lovely the way it's presented, because we decided a long time ago that this was about celebrating the life of these animals that have touched us. It's not a place of sadness and mourning, it's a place of celebration. And what better way to celebrate than about 10,000 wind chimes? They are, it's incredible. And trust me on this, although I'm always weary of someone who says trust me, but truly you will experience this the moment when these thousands of wind chimes start to go off. I have been at placements for animals where there's absolutely no wind blowing, and this is the trust me part. I have experienced when that particular animal is placed, those chimes go wild, and we always gasp like, oh, this is it. I got goosebumps right now. It is a very spiritual, beautiful place where people are, they find a lot of comfort. We have gazebos all set up in there. But did you know that all the chimes are in the key of D?
I did not.
Yeah.
Oh.
All of them are in the key of D. And when they go off, I don't know, it's just magical. And I can't wait for you to experience it. As a matter of fact, let's take some videos so your folks can experience it as well.
I think we will. And I will be there. I'm just pulling up the calendar on
September 28th.
Yes. And of course, everyone is coming with me here, and we'll definitely do some posts. And I just think having that sacred place and then having it at your home with the wind chimes, and there's such meaningful items that you can have. I've seen food and water bowls made into plants. I think growth and nature and healing and flowers are so important.
You
you
give me a new one.
Yeah.
I never thought of, and that's having your leash made into a belt.
Yes, the leash into the belt, or the collar.
I love that.
I've seen that. That's really beautiful. The collar into like a choker, or bracelet. People are so creative now with preserving ashes and fur. There's also, I do want to share, because we get this question a lot, if you want to donate, so let me caveat, you absolutely never, ever have to donate your pet's belongings if you don't want to. Trust your intuition
Right.
on this. But, even when we're so deep in our grief, we as animal lovers have so much to give. And a lot of times we can find some peace in knowing that our animal is helping other animals through, the unused medication or the food or what, some of their
Mhm.
toys. You want to donate those to your local shelter. That can really provide a sense of relief, and just peace, knowing that their spirit lives on.
Well, and here we are in Pet Memorial Month, which
Yeah.
is very apropos when you think about all the different ways you can memorialize. I have a little sweater from my Chihuahua Hula, and Hula's been gone for 20 years now, but her sweater is on a teddy bear. It's just this tiny little sweater that someone had hand crocheted, and I kept wondering, what the heck am I going to do with it? I don't want to give it away. I don't want to toss it. I don't want to, so you don't have to give everything away, like you said, but I had this little teddy bear and hula sweater is on there, and I just smile every time I pass it. It's been 20 years. I smile every time.
Well, of course. And,
And
with
it
the
gives
holiday,
me joy.
it gives joy.
It can be a joyful thing.
Well, and when you're ready, and we always say,
Sure.
it's when, um, but with the holidays coming up too, I've seen toys made into like little stuffies made into ornaments, or putting the collar on the top of the tree. And I would, as we start to come upon these holidays, I would say make traditions that include your animal, whether it's lighting a candle for them every night or making an ornament for them whatever is meaningful to you, but please keep including them.
Oh,
Oh,
tattoos. Yes. I just saw tattoos pop
I
up. Oh, I love a tattoo.
you know,
Yeah. This is I know lots of folks who have memorialized their pets in fabulous graphic detail
yeah.
on their yeah, on their bodies, because they just keep them with them everywhere they go.
I love that. And actually, I'm thinking of getting a tokite tattoo. I'll share if I do. That's the whale, the orca that just recently passed away. But I'm very connected to orcas in that community. But we do love tattoos in this group. But you know, Patty, as we start to, I know we're coming up on the hour. But I think this month might be the time to help us reflect. Grief looks so different
Mm-hmm.
for all, and it manifests differently for each of us. But I think these months maybe present a unique opportunity to reflect on what's really important to us in the context of this tremendous loss. And I have just a few questions that we might ask ourselves,
Sure.
but what do I consider a fulfilling life? What am I proud of? Who do I want to become? What inspires me? What is meaningful to me? What do I want my pet's legacy to be? And how can I help with that? Um, in what environments do I feel like I can be genuine? And then who and what do I love the most? And how can I show up for them? And I think that when we're feeling that devastation, that absolute void, that 3 a.m. moment, if we can kind of turn it and ask ourselves these questions so that there's some meaning to this time, there's some purpose to this time, it can be really helpful.
With questions like, what made me so happy when we were together? And then why, really asking, and not just the obvious loss question, but why do I feel so bad now? Like helping yourself pinpoint what is it about this loss. And I mean, I know there's of course grief is is not a straight line. Grief is not a linear
No,
process.
no.
It's kind of like bleh,
And if
to
it's not
but
It's if we feel okay for a few days, if we feel kind of
Right.
stable, and then we have a wave wash over us, that is not a setback. It won't be a setback until the day
No.
it comes up years later.
But do you think there's something in asking, why do I feel so bad? Like helping yourself pinpoint.
Of course. I mean, any deep exploration that we can
Okay.
do on ourselves is good, because it finds out, it helps us discover how we want to spend our days. None of us have unlimited time. And I think this loss really brings home our mortality.
Mortality, yeah.
And we honestly, I mean, all we really have is this moment, truly. And I think when we ask ourselves those deep questions, then we better prepare ourselves for how we want to spend those moments and who we want to spend them in the company of.
I will fritter time. And that question comes up a whole lot more for me these days. You know, when you were, I don't know, a more carefree mindset of like, la, 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 I'm just living and doing, and I'll sit and binge watch this show or whatever. I started to ask myself, what those laser questions, where does that focus? Where do I want to focus that intention and time? And it's helped me get out of some of those sticky grief moments.
No, absolutely. And we all need those escapes. Any
Oh,
yeah.
I still do them. Let's not act like I don't.
If I'm
yeah.
really tough day, I'll watch a Ted Lasso
Yes.
episode. Those really help. But we start to dive in, and maybe we'll pick this up in our next live next month. But we start to then ask ourselves, is it grief or is it depression? Like what's really going on here? I'm going to read you the symptoms of grief, some of them.
Okay.
Sadness, despair, mourning, fatigue or low energy, tears, loss of appetite, poor sleep, poor concentration, happy and sad memories, and then feelings of guilt. Now I'm going to read you some of the symptoms of depression: sadness, despair, mourning, fatigue or low energy, tears, loss of appetite, poor sleep, poor concentration, happy and sad memories, feelings of guilt. They're exactly the same, that list. And I think that's when we start to question, grief gradually, the feelings remit as we regain our equilibrium. And grief is that external loss, whereas depression really is that internal feeling of emptiness. And then we start to experience more clinical symptoms. But I say all this, that there will always be reminders, because you loved. If we're experiencing grief, that love is still there. That's why.
So my question to you is, I always grapple with these feelings of stuck. Like, are there things that you can do when you're feeling stuck? Like, all of those symptoms, sometimes there's just a feeling of, if I could just pick one thing to get me moving forward.
There's so many coping skills for feeling stuck. The first thing that pops into my mind, have you ever heard of an emotion wheel? It's basically the idea that the average person only uses 6 adjectives to describe their mood, like sad, happy, tired, bored. There are thousands of emotions. So if we can kind of name what we're really feeling, just putting a name to it, I try and figure out, why you're feeling stuck. Is it you're overwhelmed? That might be a good way to start. Also, probably from a psychological point of view, and I want to be really careful not delving into any kind of clinical intervention here, but we call it behavioral activation. When we're deep in grief, right, we want to pull up the covers, we want to eat the junk food, we just want to stay in our cave. And that in the long run can actually make us feel more down. If we can go out, even if we're not feeling it, and this is where a trusted loved one might come in, that literally kind of yanks us out, someone we trust, to go do something that we used to love.
Oh.
Getting us unstuck. And then this is a whole different conversation, but that's where cognitive behavioral therapy
No,
comes.
but that's huge. That's huge.
Sometimes
Yeah.
remind
If you can reach in, say, I used to like sailing or going to the lake or whatever it is. And if you just did that, that could help pull you up.
it'll be little. I saw someone posted, and I want to make sure I give them credit, glimmers, little glimmers.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I love that term. I never heard it before in that context. Little glimmers of who we used to be, what we used to love, what inspired us, can kind of remind us that life does continue on. We're still here. Our pets may not be here physically, but we still are. So how do we want to spend this time?
Glimmers wins.
Glimmers. Well,
Whoever said that, thank you.
yeah.
Glimmers. You get a little glimmer of it's a glimmer of hope too, that you could actually begin to feel better.
I think that's it exactly. Maybe Patty, we're coming up on the hour, so maybe we'll finish with the glimmers, and we are doing this next month, I believe.
Yes, I look forward to it.
And we'll see everyone when we reunite in Utah in a couple weeks.
I can't wait. I know. And just so y'all know, Katie is doing the benediction for our annual service. So it's our annual Angels Rest blessing. And Katie will be honoring us with the benediction. So I'm very excited for that.
I'm the one that's honored. But I'm going to drive out there from San Francisco. So I'll take everyone with me. And I see someone giving credit. Glimmers is the holistic psychologist who I adore. So that makes sense. It would have been
perfect.
Love that account.
Thank you.
Until then, I will post this shortly. And until then, we are here. And just, gosh, Patty, as always, thank you for everything.
Thank you, Katie.
Friends, for supporting this. So, okay. Talk soon, everyone.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Patty.
Bye.